Barada, Croeso I Cymru, or more specifically, welcome to my back garden. While I'm not in a position to ride the bike at the moment, I thought I'd catch up on a few other videos that I've promised to do and haven't got around to doing. So first of all, my history in bikes. Not complete history because I don't have photos of every bike I've had, but I'll talk you through and show you what I can. So first of all, we've got this little number, Honda H100. It's a bike I learnt to ride on. Cheap, economical, nearly as fast as a 125. Very basic, drum brakes all round. Not a very flashy bike, but it did the job. I rode that and I failed my first test. When I took my first test, I did an emergency stop, which I could never replicate again if I tried. I saw the examiner put his hand up, jumped on the brakes, stopped the bike, looked over my shoulder, didn't put a foot down on the ground, rode off back to the instructor. Got to the end of the test, his words were, "You know what you did wrong, you didn't even put your foot down. Other than that, you're fine. I'll see you in 2 weeks." So I rebooked my test, took it again 2 weeks later. It was freezing, literally. The poor chap had to sit behind. Being a 2-stroke, it was smelly anyway, but it was even worse because I couldn't put the choke in. If I put the choke in, it would stall. But we got through it, got through the test, and that was in the morning, and in the afternoon I went out and purchased one of these. This is a Suzuki GS 500e 2-cylinder 500cc bike for commuting, basically. I, at the time, was working in London, so my daily commute was down the M1 from junction 6 all the way to the end at Staples Corner, straight down the Edgware Road, round Park Lane, down Vauxhall Bridge Road, go over Vauxhall Bridge and turn left, and there was work. The 100 was boring and wasn't quick enough really to cope with motorways. 500 was perfect. What it wasn't good at was long journeys, and we had to regularly do a trip up to my parents', which is a 250-mile round trip, and for that the 500 really wasn't up to it. We changed it, and that was my next bike, BMW K100 LT. Not the RT, the LT. Basic differences between the LT and the RT were really colour-coded panniers and top box, an LT sticker on the back of the top box, and the more soft, sexy seat. Great on big A roads. Not so good on little roads, obviously, because it's quite a big heavy bike. Used to commute on that as well. We used to both go on to work in central London. Yes, wasn't so good on smaller roads though, and so I craved something a little bit more, how can I put this, or less demanding to ride, so to speak. And I fancied something a little bit more classical at that time, so I went and bought that BMW R100 RS, one of the last of the line models in pine green. About 94, I think, 93, 94, somewhere around about that. Last one's being built. That was a lovely, nice little bike to ride. Not hugely fast, not hugely powerful. Only thing that I didn't like about that really was the seat wasn't very comfortable. Very, very hard seat. We didn't like it, find it very comfortable. Other than that, it was a good bike. I regret, well, no, I don't regret, but it's a shame I didn't keep hold of it, let's put it that way. That's probably an excellent bike, and I'd say it was the last of a kind, really. The early ones had about 70 brake horsepower, that only had 60, but it was enough. Now, cautionary lesson for some of you. Be very careful when you go into motorbike shops. They can be very dangerous places. Yours truly needed a pair of gloves. So I bought a pair of gloves and came out with that. Honda MTX 125. Bought for the princely sum of £995 at the time, with new rear tyre and new chain, new sprockets. Kept that for many years, only sold it about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. No, 7 years ago. About 6-7 years ago I sold that. Sold that for spares and repairs. I used it, I commuted on it, I went into a few green lanes in and around Hertfordshire. Brother-in-law used it in Suffolk. Yeah, it's basically got hammered over the years, and it's eventually got sold for spares or repair. The surprising thing was it actually sold for more than I'd bought it for in the first place. There we go. So yeah, I had a yearning for something a bit different, so we went out and we got one of those Kawasaki ZZR 1100. A mighty piece of kit. I'll spare you the view of me just wearing a pair of shorts on that, but yeah, ZZR 1100. Nice bike, very fast, and not good for keeping one's license. Extremely capable piece of kit. However, I had an epiphany one day. The company I worked for at the time insisted I went and did a corporate for them. It's a hard life. I had to go to Ron Haslam Racing School down at Donington Park and take some clients on a day there. The CBR 600s that they were using were just so fantastic, and so much lighter and so much more involving really than the ZZR 11. It was, oh, this is what I've been missing. I've been missing this fun and excitement. So before I knew where I was, Yamaha R6. Lovely blue and white piece of kit. Okay, it didn't have the astounding performance, but what it did have was that ability to just change direction when you thought about it. Marvellous, lightweight bike, fast enough, glamorous enough for someone who's a bit of a tart, but there you go. For a while I did a spot of work in London, and that was my steed for that. Yamaha 600 Jester version. Did many a mile on that, all over the place. What I would say, it's just a bit of a workhorse. No particularly outstanding features, but it did get the job done. Even went away for a weekend down to Goodwood Festival of Speed on that once. Loaded up the pair of us. Surprisingly capable bike. Bit of a difference. At one time, while we were in Norfolk, I had one of these, Aprilia Havana. That's a 50cc model. They do it in 125 and a 50. And that was a 50. And that one was registered as a motorcycle, not as a moped. So I had it legally de-restricted and had it insured and ran it as a motorcycle. 40 odd mile an hour top speed. It was a surprisingly capable piece of kit. I had no real problems with it until shortly, well, literally the day it was being collected, when I'd sold it. The fuel pump failed, wouldn't start. Very embarrassing. Chap still wanted to take it, so I gave him a healthy discount off the machine, because I didn't feel right about it. But yes, so that's the bike. There's a couple of other bikes I've had. 650 GS BMW, which I used when I was doing my motorcycle training school. That was a bike I used, or if we were having someone doing direct access, they'd go on that. And we had a CBF 125, some CG 125s. Yeah, we had quite a few at one point. I had about 7 bikes knocking around. We had Harley Davidson Heritage Softail Classic. I think that's what they called it. That's the proper title anyway. Had one of those. Don't have any photos I can show of that one, but that was just a plain black one. And then also I had a Triumph Bonneville, the 865 Hinkley Bonneville, and that was about a 2013 plate if I remember rightly. That's the only one that's got damaged in an accident. It's had to be gone off to be repaired. So that one was sold purely because yeah, well, it didn't feel the same again. Not to me. Haven't got any photos of that bike either. What I have got is a tattoo on my right shoulder, which includes the bike, which I won't show you now, but I may include it another time. Right, so that's potted history of some of the bikes I've had. Obviously I've got the Enfield at the moment. I've seen plenty of shots of that. If not, look at some of my videos. Right, another video coming soon. See you soon. Bye.